Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on what time you listen and watch my official YouTube video. Please make sure to subscribe to my official YouTube channel and go to my website, www.susanmealing.com. If you're going to leave a comment, please make sure to have etiquette and respect. So, I have dealt with what I'm sure I cannot be the only person who has dealt with this. It's called, I don't know if anybody's heard of this, a helicopter parent. I also have dealt with, I don't know if anybody's dealt with this, a sibling rivalry. I doubt I am the only one who has ever dealt with this. So, if you go to my journal blog on my website, www.susanmealing.com, there's the ornery PSA. So, I've gone through some updates since the time frame of the year 2019. I've authored a few books. You can see them on my website, www.susanmealing.com. So, I was born and raised in New Jersey. And I grew up going to the 5 boroughs in New York City, different areas in New York State, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Lancaster, and other areas of Pennsylvania. And I grew up hanging out with a lot of different people, not just because my biological father had been certified by the School of Bulova and had worked on a bunch of different types of watches, but also my Buckung and my Buckpoo lived in Manhattan. And, but I had gone to Asher Holmes Elementary School. And for the first few years, it wasn't really different than what I would think most people went through. There were some situations, admittedly, regarding kindergarten, but as time went on, it seemed to me, when looking back now in the year 2022, today is the 28th of April in 2022 for clarifications, it just seemed like it had to do with the music at first. First, it seemed that different musical bands at the time became odd, and I don't know what other people's parents were listening to, if that had something to do with it, whatever it was. As time went on, by the time of 3rd grade, well, my biological sister was in kindergarten, and all of the teachers by that point in time had known who I had been. They knew that I was very studious. They knew that I pretty much kept to myself. If there was assistance needed, I did assist where I could, and I didn't really bother anybody. And then there was my biological sister. And so anybody who's learned those particular lessons, you know what Asher Holmes Elementary School teachers went through. So where all of the teachers were expecting my biological sister to have something similar. Those who have met her know exactly how that goes. And so, so there were siblings that were in my class because I wasn't the only person who had a younger sibling, and it went the way it did. First, it started out with my biological sister going and telling people about my Buckung and my Buckpoo. Then it went on about her informing people that Mike had all these expensive pieces of jewelry at the house. And so where I didn't really have people come over the house, she did. And where the business shop was on the other side of where the bedroom was. So they'd go into that area, and you can pretty much guesstimate how that went. And I dealt with that. Because even though I didn't do anything wrong, because it was somehow, even though whether I was hanging out with whatever friends or I was doing whatever extracurricular activities, somehow I was supposed to babysit my biological sister while playing football. Or I was somehow supposed to be babysitting my biological sister when I was riding bikes with some guys. Or I was somehow supposed to babysit my biological sister when I was at church. Or I was somehow supposed to babysit my biological sister when I was in another state. In those references, and it was one of those, why are you blaming me for what you know is not my fault? Stop blaming me for what I am not responsible for. Make Patricia take responsibility for what her choices were. Do not hold me accountable for her choices. She is to be held accountable for her own choices. And so I took a stand at a very young age, and those who have met Mike, most likely if you met Mike in Illinois, well, he was calmer than in New Jersey. If you met him in Texas, he was calmer by a lot compared to New Jersey. By a lot. Just for clarifications. So, you have no idea, although I'm sure some could guess, as far as certain things are concerned. And then there's Anna. And she had a stash of wooden spoons kept underneath the kitchen sink, just in case some broke. Then her first favorite of choice were dry cleaner hangers. For those who know what the 1980s and 1990s wire dry cleaner hangers were, she told me that she wanted to be a mommy dearest. Then her second favorite choice was electrical cords. And if by chance she couldn't find those, then there were the wooden spoons that were always underneath the kitchen counter. Every one of them, everyone had a few. It was as it was. So, you know, I did the best I could to survive, I don't know, why didn't I want to go back and live with my biological mother and biological father? Hypothetically, maybe there's somebody somewhere who could be like, I know why. I have an idea. That's my childhood. I actually contacted DYFS, for those who know what DYFS is, in regards to my biological mother, but because my biological father was home, it was the misunderstanding. And so he was working in the garage when they showed up, which that didn't help. So if anybody's seen the garage in San Antonio or the garage in Illinois, just think that's downsized compared to the 5-car garage in New Jersey with the shed attached. Just saying. Anyway, so, you know, I'm alive. I survived. I did the best I could. It is what it is. Why do you think when it came to basic training in the Army, oh, you're gonna call me what? Oh. Are you being kind? I didn't say that, by the way. In my thoughts, it was like, aw. Thanks, Jill Sargent. You recognize I was born in the year of the dog? Shucks. I can make fun of that because it's the truth. And so, you know, fast forward to Major General Gilman. Aww. Are you flirting with me? Not an actual thought, let me clarify. quite a few names. And I'm not talking nicknames either. So, what I had explained as well as wrote about in Finding a Silver Lining. Okay, let me clarify. I am the firstborn. I'm a biological female. My biological father is first generation Chinese. Do the math. So, yeah, that was the starting point. Yeah, so in Asher Holmes, I noticed things because it was one of those, even though I was dealing with what I was dealing with, I acknowledge I was a bit different. I paid attention to details, so even though certain people, they were as they were, whatever they were dealing with, it was one of those, well, things can hopefully get better, and it was genuine because I could only speak the truth. And so, and yes, it's the 1980s, 1990s in New Jersey, but it is what it is. Well, it wasn't until my biological sister got in Asher Holmes Elementary School that there were any problems. And then those who know my biological mother, as soon as there was a problem with my biological sister so many times, my biological mother decided to go into my class in 3rd grade, and so she got in front of the classroom and she was just so you know, Susan, and it's just, oh, really right now. She has a little sister named Patricia. She's in kindergarten, and you should be kinder, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, really? Really? This is really happening. So those who know how elementary school is, and you shouldn't pick on Patricia because she's just in kindergarten, where nobody was picking on her. Everyone was just calling her out because of the stuff that occurred. So they had siblings. And so they would call out my biological sister and be like, why are you doing this? And then I dealt with it. Because why is your sister doing this? Oh no, I'll handle it. And they'd watch me. They would. There's a few points in time where I picked my biological sister up and I said, do not do that. Do not embarrass me. And she'd go cry. I don't care. I already know I'm going to deal with this at the house. At the very minimum, once this is done, it is done, and you're not, you're not. I am. So, is what it is. Well, I mainly didn't get into dance like the majority of people did. And in regards to females, I hung out with guys. So where a lot of the females kind of bonded in the dance classes, by the time of 3rd or 4th grade, I started getting into gymnastics. And that's a big difference between ballet or tap or jazz or all that. This is how class went after. So the first year, it was, oh, go do ballet. I don't want to do ballet. Until the recital, and then I really liked the tutu. That was it. That was all I liked. Especially when I'd spin around and it got all poofy, and that was great. That was about it though. But I got in trouble because I'd spin around and the tutu would spin around the way tutus do when you spin at a faster rate. And so I got in trouble because, how dare you, God, whatever. It would look so much better if it was done that way in comparison to this little dainty garbage as far as that's concerned. Anybody who's ever corrected a dance instructor, I was this many. And so the next year it was, she should go into tap and jazz instead. Well, my feet move fast. And the other aspect okay, so I don't really want to have to do this, but I'm gonna. So in regards of in ballet, I got in trouble because I had, instead of doing the ballet stuff the way you do ballet, I would do that. And so every time it became this, it was that. And don't do that, you're gonna mess up your feet. Oh, well, that's the way I was born. So that is what it is. So, we could just do it like this. No, you need to have point shoes on. No, I don't. So now I have point shoes. I don't think this is what she intended. However, that's fine. And so I can make fun of it at this point. So it became go do tap and jazz, and because my feet moved fast. There was a male later in, I think it was in 6th, maybe 7th grade, and he had noticed my feet, and he had asked how long I had been dancing, and by then I had been in gymnastics and martial arts. And he was like, you have the feet of a professional dancer, except, well, it's only 1 foot. And it had been clarified, and it was something, there was only one female from whatever history of dance whose feet, and it was only 1 foot, that she was actually born that way. And she was some famous dancer, I don't know who. And she did some sort of ballet of some sort of whatever, which upset Patricia, of course, because I could do this and I could do that, look what I could do. And it was a bad situation, I'll just leave it at that. She had embarrassed herself very badly with that guy, and he had come down from New York City. And she wanted to surprise him. She had found out that he was supposed to have an interview with one of the other, she wasn't an instructor, I think she was an assistant instructor, and something had occurred. Patricia had found out about it. I was sitting in the lobby chair, and I didn't think she was actually going to do it, but she went in and did it. And that guy had seen me just sitting in the chair, and he was like, you! And it's like, oh, really? Sure, what's up? And take off your sneakers. I don't want to. And nope, take off your sneakers. I want to see you. I'm not even in the school anymore at that point. And so that's when he had seen my foot, and he was just, that was it. He was in, I don't know, and it's just, how long have you been dancing? You were so young, and da-da-da, your posture, this and that, and it's, great. This is not what I need to deal with at that time. And it was your foot, I don't know what the history is, but it's some overseas ballerina or something of something. And it's like, ha 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 ha. No, I'm not graceful. I'm about as graceful as a dog wearing roller skates on an ice rink. That's about as graceful as I can be in ballet. And I can, it's just I can't do it the way normal people do ballet. And, well, what do you mean? And all that sort of stuff. And I made attempts to explain. And so for those who know about Exotic Easter, more so the practice. So Steve would have the DJ play different classical music. No matter what the song was, I was capable to go along with the music, which is kind of similar to a degree, but with a radio. And I was capable to go along with it. And he was just, oh my, you're just, and it's like, which then there was the sibling rivalry situation. So fast forward to Marlboro Middle School, and already the additional issues, but now it's a larger school because it's not just Asher Holmes Elementary School, it's Asher Holmes Elementary School, Robertsville Elementary School, and like 2 or 3 other elementary schools at Marlboro Middle School. And we attended Old Tenet Presbyterian Church. So there were other people who attended Old Tenet Presbyterian Church that lived in Marlboro Township. And that sort of situation, and it just went from there. Cousins and all that sort of stuff. And no matter what it was, I did the best that I could. But then there were more Asian males. And my big blood brother, he knew about certain issues, and he did what he could. It's like, whatever, it's fine, okay. And no. Well, later, I guarantee you, if it wasn't, sadly, but ironically, if it wasn't for what happened to my big blood brother, I guarantee you I wouldn't have been asked to dance. Nor would I have been asked to go and have pictures taken at the time because of how protective he was, or overprotective in some references. And so I think his name was David Kim, if I remember. And but it was as it was, and a lot of people had known that I had a buck gong and a buck poo. All because my biological sister wouldn't keep her mouth shut. Every time. It was just because she couldn't keep her mouth shut, because she didn't see any reason. She thought it was something that needed to be broadcast, and it was one of those, no, it's not. You don't understand. And so her issues were because she didn't have the Asian name that she was supposed to have, because Anna had decided to name her Patricia Ann, because she thought that my biological sister's cesarean was good enough to honor my buck gong. What she failed to understand was my buck poo had picked out the name. So it didn't matter what day she wanted to have the cesarean, the name was what mattered because of various astrological charts. It's not just in reference to, especially those who know Chinese astrology, it is not just what year you were born in. It is not just the year of the dog in my reference, it's the year of the dog with whatever elemental sign, and that's just the overall year, and then you have the additional factor of the month and the day, and so all these other, the closest reference is not really feng shui, but it's the closest reference I can give, but for an astrological chart. And so my buck poo had completely, like my biological mother did one, my buck poo had completed my Asian one. And so she had everything mapped out. And my buck gong had his, because she was half Cantonese, half Mandarin, my buck gong was full Cantonese. So they had all of these different astrological alignments. And then there was the solar zodiac and the lunar zodiac. And so there were all these different factors in reference to my astrological chart. And I literally have the rising in each and every house. So all of the planetary alignments, they're all on the rising. They all have the positive attributes and all these different situations where bringer of life and all these, not to sound all hippy-dippy, but, And so water bearer, a few other things, and it just was as it was. Well, my biological sister, because she was born when she was, but it was by a calculation in comparison to other things, that is a different type of birth chart. The aspects, additionally, for those who understand, you also have the numerological birth chart, and then you have your own name. So you have your first name and you have your middle name, and both of them have their own individual attributes. Then you have other calculations that are involved when it comes to certain studies. So it's not just numerology, it's not just astrology, it's a huge culmination. And my biological sister didn't get that because my biological mother didn't name her what she was supposed to be named. So everything in the chart was messed up for Patricia. My Buck Pooh was willing to recheck my chart. She was not willing to recheck Patricia's chart. And so when she rechecked my chart, everything remained the same. No matter what, everything was in line. And so it was as it was. Well, my biological sister had her issues, and those who know, she stirred up things needlessly. So every time that I started to get along with a female or a group of females, my biological sister would find out, stir up needless drama, and then I would deal with it. And it was one of those, whenever females finally learn that don't listen to my biological sister, that'll be great. That'll be awesome. Don't hold me accountable for what she did. She needs to be held accountable for what she did. That's the facts. That's, what is the quote from former President of the United States of America, Ronald Reagan? We must not blame society for the entirety of the lawbreaker. We must blame the lawbreaker to progress in society and move forward and stuff like that. So at that time, we're children and stuff like that. So I was on the track team in Marlboro Middle School. The night before a race, there was a situation with my biological sister, and I had to sadly acknowledge this, but I had to take a knee because of what I dealt with. She had seen something and took one of the coat hangers, and it was something she had seen as far as whatever, and so my knee really hurt that particular race. I actually was in the lead, but then there was a situation and I had to deal with it, and so it was as it was. And so fast forward to Marlboro High School. Well, now you have a larger amount of individuals, and my biological sister had stirred up a bunch of other stuff, and even in Old Tenet Presbyterian Church, that was stirred up because of, she decided to go and tell people and essentially out me for what I dealt with at Baptist Camp Lebanon, because she thought that she deserved to have sympathy for what she didn't go through. I'm sure there are people who understand this. And it was one of those, there was a huge fight at the church when it came to her and I, and a few others, because it was one of those, I don't want to talk about it. Just let me be. Let me just deal with it on my own. And in comparison, it was as it was. So then, when it came to other situations, you can see a pattern of behavior, I'm sure. This was the 1990s by that point. So in the year of 1996, going into 1997, I was going through confirmation class. At the same time of going to Sunday school, at the same time of going to St. John Vianney High School. And when winter season came around, I had wanted to do wrestling. I've been playing football, I've been hanging out with the guys, street hockey, ice hockey, basketball, baseball, it was what it was. I knew I could handle wrestling. I knew what I could do. And Mr. Shepard, this isn't WWE, Susan. What's WWW what? And so, no, not WWE. Do you mean W? This is the dork I had been. Do you mean WWW? And you just are turning the E to the side and it's supposed to be a W? Do you understand this? And he's, no, it's not WWE, Susan. And it's like, what does that mean? Well, here's the irony. So we had the old school desks where you had the flip up open with the little storage unit area and the chair that was attached. And Mr. Shepherd, you know, this is this, and boom! The chair flipped, the desk flipped, and it landed, and I was like, I know it's not WWW! And he just, Susan, that is not how wrestling goes. And by that time, I've already earned second and third place in sparring and form in the International Taekwondo competition circuit. So the year before, I had earned that, and it's like, I know! And so we were arguing back and forth, and so I'm in between the aisle of both of these chairs, and it was, I know, Mr. Shepherd, and boom! And he goes again, Susan, this is not WWE. And Mr. Shepherd, I know it's not WWW. What is wrong with you? And he goes, look what you did to the desks. What does that have to do anything with WWW? What does it have to do with that? What does the internet have to do with wrestling? Susan, pick that up. I'm not done yet. And so the irony is the desk was flipped over on its side. I had kicked the back of the chair of the desk. It flipped up and I caught it. And I slammed it down. Like, this is not the internet, okay? What is wrong with you, Mr. Shepherd? I could totally do wrestling. And he's like, Susan, I'm trying to tell you that this is not WWE. You are not Hulk Hogan. Who's Hulk Hogan? What does that have to do with the internet? Because remember, my biological mother worked at Prudential doing information technology since the 1980s. So I'm thinking this because I've assisted with this coding. I have to this day, I don't know what WWE is. I should probably look it up. It's just 2022. So he goes on, and I'm just, fine, I'll pick up the other one. I kick this one, grab it, slam it down. I'm like, whatever, fine. I'll go and get their permission to go into the wrestling. Fine. What difference is it to Taekwondo? Seriously. And he's like, that's what's wrong with your generation. Mr. Shepherd, I don't know what's wrong with you. Why? And he's like, because females are not supposed to be in wrestling. This is not the WWE. Again, what? Okay, Mr. Shepherd, maybe if you flip the E to the side, okay, and then you'll understand WWW is the internet. I think we had a failure to communicate. So the irony is his daughter went to West Point the following year, which awesome. I was glad she was a tutor of mine. I appreciated it. I did complain. I told her I was envious in a positive way because I was supposed to attend Marine and Science Technology School after my invitation. I had gone through the whole process. But it was as it was. So, well, because they wouldn't sign the waiver for me to go to wrestling, which they should have, but whatever, I had to deal with drama club. And I wasn't willing to deal with drama club. So here's the kicker, they did a chorus line at a Catholic high school. And it was one of those, this is not gonna go well, because I looked at the titles of the songs, and when I saw Tits and Ass was literally a song title, it was, ooh, that's not gonna go well. That's not gonna go well at all. Anna is a deacon and Mike is a trustee. Yeah, no, that's not gonna go well at all. Awesome, great. I can make a joke in regards of what's supposed to be the adult consenting lifestyle at this point. And so I make the joke now. Anyway, so I had to deal with that because winter track had already had tryouts because of the argument with Mr. Shepherd. You are so mean. So there are, not just there were, because by that time there were plenty of times, but also there are, since that point in time, multiple situations where despite certain things, I have taken a stand if I disagree with something, or especially in regards of if I have the knowledge that something is inaccurate. And there were different females of different sizes who went into the club. And so everybody was supposed to be a part of the last number, which was Singular Sensation. And we were doing these other situations. Well, the female, I think her name started with an M, Mariapola maybe, I don't remember fully. She had not wanted one of these other, well, a few of them, to be a part of this particular situation, and she tried pushing them out, similarly to what I had dealt with regarding woodworking class in Marlboro Middle School, being a female in that class, and it was mainly males. Well, I wasn't willing to deal with it. So and this has happened a time or a lot, where usually if I take a stand and only a few people are around, some point in time, the individual I'm actually defending walks up and doesn't realize I'm actually in the middle of a defense of them in comparison to what they walk up on, because of however long the back and forth is and whatever the surrounding situation. I have dealt with this for years by that point. Well, so no different. In the middle of, I think it was on the stage area where I think there were red or maroon chairs in the theater area, and I am lighting into this female. She's trying to claim one thing or another, and I'm not dealing with that. I don't care. You know, she tried to claim, oh, well, what are we going to do about leotards? Who cares? They stretch. Don't pretend that you don't know that. Don't pretend that they don't have these other sizes. There is the possibility for them to go and order adult sizes in comparison to what you want. Because most of the people were getting junior sizes. Oh, well, this and oh, that, and all these other situations. Well, one of the larger size females walks in and I'm popping off on this female. And she goes, yeah, well, then you can explain it to her. So I turn around and I say, fine, I will. And I turn around and she's like, you don't have to. And I'm like, no, I do. All we have to do is order. And she turned around and walked away. And it was, what did I miss? Well, then I go and make an attempt to explain things, and because the other female had gotten there first and did certain things, it's like, no, 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 no. Let me clarify. Let me do this, let me do that. Well, then Mike and Anna had found out about the song title, so when we were in the library, I made attempts again with this female. And it was, oh, well, it is what it is. And it's like, no, you don't understand. Well, then Mike comes out of the back after the situation. This one guy who had this huge afro, he's like, your dad is cool. Not right now, don't want to deal with it. And believe me, your hair, he's not going to like. He goes to say something to Mike. Mike looks at him, go get a haircut, hippie. Ah, shit. And so then inevitably he trips over or something, he sees her, he makes a comment, and it's like, really, right now? Not in the mood to deal with this. We'll fast forward later on in the week, we're at McDonald's, and I see her, and I go up to speak with her, to go sit down at the table to actually speak with her. Mike, on the other hand, decides to make the sound of a cow. Are you how many years old? And instead of being capable to speak with this female, then Patricia pops off. And it's, what is your problem? And then Anna, of any of them, goes and pops off. And it's like, why would you have the nerve to say anything at all? You, of anyone, have absolutely no right to talk about female sizes at all. And so in the middle of the McDonald's by the Pathmark, I look at Patricia and I said, I am going to wait for the day that you can't dance anymore. You have no idea what size you're going to get into. And oh no, and was what it was. So then fast forward to the following week of school, and I go to make another attempt. I don't know how many times I made an attempt to actually fix and repair this. So I got exhausted because I was just like, I'm done. The female had done stuff purposefully to keep the situation from actually, because she knew that I was correct. She knew she had started it needlessly. She knew all that sort of stuff. Well, I'm sitting on the couch and I figure, you know what? If we're meant to talk, we'll talk. Well, she ironically goes and sits on the couch, but she sits on my feet. Are you serious? May I please move my feet? My legs were crossed, like this. And she's like, move them yourself. And it's like, I can only move my toes. I can't because of what I was still dealing with regarding my biological sister at the time. And so I made attempts to pull my ankles out, and it was as it was. And so then I finally get my feet out, and she goes, it's because of my size, isn't it? And I said, no. It's because, and I explained it, and she looked at me and she goes, but your dad said this. That's what he says. And so I made attempts to explain it as far as what I dealt with, and she just kind of, whatever she was dealing with. And so I knew that there was only so much I could personally do. And so I explained how I had told those females that the possibility is getting the adult size. And she was, yeah, I know. And I said, there's nothing wrong with that. And no. And I said, no, there is nothing wrong with that. Now, it was not really known in St. John Vianney High School that I could pick up on energy. So I knew she had certain medications she was on. I knew that there were not just thyroid issues, but I could tell she had some other glandular issues. So I had asked her if she had the capability to go get certain things checked out, and maybe certain things could work out better. And I remember she looked over at me and she was, "You're just saying that to be mean." And I said, "No. If I was saying that to be mean, I wouldn't care about your health. But I'm giving you suggestions for your health. So, because I'm giving you suggestions for your health, I don't see how that's being considered as mean." And she just, "I'll think about it, whatever it is, it is." Okay. Well, it was as it was the rest of the year. Got into track and field, and I think she was a senior or a junior at the time. And so the stuff at St. John Vianney High School amped up because it was track and field, dealt with a few other situations, and usually, once again, it stemmed from my biological sister and or my biological mother and or my biological father. So at an actual track meet, my biological father is pointing out flaws in each and every female in front of them. And I'm at the high jump. Not anywhere near. Have no idea what's going on. I'm practicing the high jump. I'm about to go practice the long jump because I was a floater. So I have no idea what's going on. At this particular meet, a female named Mary, she has long, bright red hair, typical Irish, runs over and she's crying. "What's wrong with you?" And she goes and says, "There's this mean guy. I tripped and fell at the hurdles and he was like, 'Get up!' and all this sort of stuff." And "What did he look as?" She goes, "I don't know, he was huge, da, da, da." "Did he look like he could have been Asian?" "Yeah, maybe something." "Yeah, great. No, that's fantastic. No, that's awesome. No, that's great. That doesn't do anything when it comes to my international international taekwondo. But now you want to go and open your mouth. What is wrong with you?" And so, I do what I can to calm her down, and "You're just saying that." It's like, you have no idea. I literally deal with this on a daily basis. Why do you think I'm doing what I can? And so by that time that year, I pop off so loud that the starter pistol, nobody heard. The actual coaches at that particular race were like, "You're supposed to go." Well, they couldn't hear because I was popping off on this female named Mary. Bright red hair, ginger type, Irish and all that stuff. I don't, blah, 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 popping off. Like, 5 boroughs popping off type for clarifications for those who know the 1980s, 1990s. Pittsburgh, Philadelphia popping off. Camden popping off. South Pines popping off. In the 1980s, 1990s, as far as this female named Mary, I am popping off on this female. And she's just, "You're so mean." And it's like, if you would just listen and da-da-da-da, sorts of stuff. Well, was what it was. So then the following year, when we're sophomores and stuff like that, I'm dealing with what I'm dealing with. I'm arguing with Mike and Anna because I could have been attending Marine and Science Technology School instead of this. They wanted to try to claim that St. John Vianney High School was exactly the same as Marine and Science Technology School with the Navy attachment because we wore uniforms.
Nothing else. No, nothing else, just because we wore uniforms. No, there's a few differences. For example, there's the Navy attachment in comparison to a Catholic high school. That's a starting point. While there could be religion, yes, there's no denying that, there is the Navy attachment difference. And so it got heated at the house. I actually stood my ground. Mike went to do a few things and I defended myself. And Anna went to go and reach for a few things and they were used on her instead. And all of a sudden, I don't deal with certain things anymore. And it was, you will know your place. You will stay out of my life. Once I am 18 years old, I won't have anything to do with you. I don't care. You keep your stuff and all your associates. If they are not actually going to assist me, keep them out of my life. Do not bother me. Do not cause me any needless problems. They tried whatever and it was as it was. Anna went to go reach for another wooden spoon. I grabbed it out of her hands and threw it right back at her. And we had a few other words, and all of a sudden we were moving from New Jersey to Illinois because Patricia couldn't outlive all of the needless problems she caused. And because I wouldn't go into the school to defend her. That she made her bed, she can lie in it. I'm not dealing with it. You either submit to my commands or she can deal with it. I don't care what happens. I'm done dealing with you people. And Anna tried crying and all this other stuff. No. I've been dealing with stuff all because of that. I don't care. No. You will not get me to feel sympathy. After everything, and this is by the time of 1998, mind you. After everything I have dealt with. No, I had dealt with stuff in Asher Holmes Elementary School because of the three of you. I have dealt with stuff in Marlboro Middle School because of the three of you. I dealt with stuff at Old Tenet Presbyterian Church because of the three of you. I dealt with stuff at Marlboro High School because of the three of you. I dealt with stuff at St. John Vianney High School because of the three of you. I don't want to have anything to do with the three of you. You need to accept that. There is no fixing this. Because the only way to fix and repair this is you accepting that it is my way and my way only. If you can't accept that, stay out of my way. If you have an issue accepting what I know is best for me, do not get in my way. Do not send any problems my way. Keep yourself to yourself. We are done. We are over. We are not a family. My biological mother dropped to the floor, started crying. Oh, you don't mean that and all that. No, I do. I do mean that. I don't care what Patricia is dealing with. She has done that to herself. I don't care what you don't like. You have caused needless problems yourself. And when Mike tried to pop off, and I don't care, because why were you talking shit to females in high school? What makes you think you have any right to do that? And it was as it was. So we move out to Illinois. And my biological mother thinks that me being a part of a cheerleading squad is going to get me to be friends with females. first and foremost, have no background in cheerleading. Secondly, I already know the same garbage is going to occur, so why bother wasting my time? I'm not going to waste my time. I don't want or need or desire or prefer any involvement. We're not on that level. We're not ever going to be. Just stop. There is no fixing and repairing it without actually doing it my way. Accept that. It's my way or my way because it's my life. Accept it's my life, not yours. You have your life, I have mine. Stop impeding on my life. Stay out of it. Permanently. Amen. And we had it out. So I was on the Crystal Lake South High School cheerleading squad, somehow make varsity. Well, Patricia was going to whatever Crystal Lake school has siblings instantly within the first week of school. Same thing as Asher Holmes Elementary School from kindergarten. Stay out of my life, Patricia. Don't bother me. We're not anything more than biological. Do not associate yourself with me. Because the reality is you have been a needless problem a lot longer than you have been willing to accept. She had been embarrassed of me well before the state of Texas. I'm not willing to deal with you. There is a point in time where you cauterize the wound. And this, in the year of 2022, is where that gets cauterized. Because I'm done. Needless involvement repeatedly. Stop. Didn't ask, didn't need, didn't want, didn't desire, didn't prefer. I know what's best for myself. I'm not interested in advancing your political stuff. If you haven't figured that out. Because that was the stuff she was trying to pull in New Jersey and in Illinois, as people would know. So I dealt with what I dealt with as far as all that was concerned. The argument in reference to stuff in St. John Vianney High School after Titanic had to do with my biological sister stirring stuff up with other people at St. John Vianney High School that already had whatever other issues. It was one thing after the other, taking sibling rivalry to a ridiculous level. It's one of those, if Anna had actually gotten the mental health assistance in comparison to wishing otherwise, life would have been easier for my son, my daughter, and I. Whatever proof is capable to be found is capable to be found. The fact is, additionally, that if my maternal grandmother had listened to my grandpa Gavitt, Anna should have had quite a few situations regarding her mental health. But because Grandma Gavitt did the same garbage that Anna did as far as Patricia is concerned, which her 2 sisters and 2 brothers would be capable to clarify as far as that's concerned, I would guesstimate in full those needless situations. I know that there is a stigma behind the mental health situation, but when you try to ignore that, and then you want to try to wish that it's going to be rose-colored glasses, stop fooling yourself at that point. That is the point from back in 8th grade, having met Governor Christine Todd Whitman and asking that in regards of my Oceanic poster. When at this point in time, military, active duty, National Guard reservist, veteran, as well as law enforcement have had to go through whatever. Why are the civilian sector individuals such pansies when it comes to that? because that has been a different problem needlessly. Because maybe if in the civilian sector, the ones that have caused a bunch of needless problems actually got the assistance in comparison to trying to force themselves on guys who have actually processed what they already dealt with and didn't need to have any wounds reopened because they already handled it. Maybe, just maybe, those civilians that could actually go and take care of themselves in comparison of involving themselves with people who have actually overcome it in that sneaky, sly, civilian, temper tantrum sort of way, wouldn't have to deal with quite a few situations. Because those types of civilians, most specifically, that go and poke, and then wonder why they have to deal with things. Well, maybe, just maybe, if you didn't start stuff needlessly, that won't happen. When you constantly, at this point in time, this is from 1990 to 2022 regarding my biological sister. Same thing with my biological mother and my biological father. At what point in time does a restraining order officially, after having put it on my website, as far as the don't cause any needless problems? Same thing with my ex-in-laws. If you're causing needless problems to me, why don't you understand that? I actually do stuff to progress for betterment. Why would you cause needless problems and think that I would be in a good mood? If you go and constantly poke at a wound, why would you think that you're going to have any other response? After a certain point in time, you have to go and look in the mirror that is behind your sink and pay attention to that fact. Just because I have been capable to go and overcome what I have doesn't mean, does not translate to you having any rights at all when it comes to what I've overcome. It's realistic. Why would you be surprised? It's decades at this point for certain situations, with the proof thereof. And so, in regards of certain situations, if a lot of things would have just been calmer for me, have common sense, courtesy, and etiquette in comparison to what I have dealt with. Because as long as in certain references of other factors that other people made the choices they made, why wouldn't you have common sense, respect, and etiquette in the approach? I have no problem discussing things, but if I have to lecture, I'll lecture. And that's on you, regarding where you could have actually asked questions if it was an approach with etiquette and respect in comparison. Again, go to my journal blog, The Ornery PSA, on my website, www.susanmeeling.com, especially in regards to different locations throughout the state of Texas from 2000 through 2013 before winding up in Washington State. And then 2013 through 2019. And then after that, the stuff in Texas. From 2019 through 2021. When does it become mandatory for that sort of stuff? When does etiquette become a mandatory situation? After the knowledge from the clarifications and verifications of what I have endured. If you would not do this to a male, why would you think it would ever be acceptable for a female? If you are a female, what type of feminazi are you? I've asked my biological sister and biological mother this in person, face to face in person. I know of one male, more than one, but there's one in particular where I had specifically used the word that I have used many times before, having been engaged to his son. So, already asked my biological mother and biological sister that in New Jersey, before Illinois. It's not a new word for me when it comes to certain types of females. You either actually work to lift upward correctly with etiquette and respect. Do not be a feminazi. Because there's a difference between a feminist, which is lifting up and working with, in comparison to feminazis. No different when it comes to certain males who think that they have a right to be machismo when they do not. And with the facts of the formation of the U.S. Space Force, with the knowledge as to SpaceX as well as Blue Origin, with the knowledge that there are the realities, it is called the Mother Ocean when it comes to the oceanic waters, those types of males have needed to accept the facts. I don't care what the linear mind has been for you. There are certain realities to just accept. Unlike some people, I know exactly what is required to actually prove it fully, and I have. There are those types that here's the thing about being a dominant. I don't actually have to prove it to you. I just show you the background for that proof. If the U-Haul situation had not been a problem, this whole thing wouldn't have been a problem. But because of that situation, that set of needless problems, knowing what I was already dealing with. Don't pretend anymore when it comes to any of those types. When it comes to my work, scuba diving, my background has proven it. The clarifications and verifications have been done so. Just accept it. I don't care as far as other people's opinions. Again, I looked as I do in the state of Texas. My hair started in 2005 in July. My tattoos in the center of my palms started in the year 2006. Just saying. I think that pretty much speaks for itself at that point. As far as my lack of care regarding other people's opinions of how I physically look. My lack of care regarding other people's opinions about what other people have said when they have stirred up needless drama, which needless drama is the same as needless problems. No different. So what I have dealt with realistically, the fact of the matter, on top of this, in the year 2022, 1998 is the last time I saw the New York City skyline at night from a location I would recognize. The first time of having seen the New York City skyline in a way that I would actually recognize is February of 2022. There is the knowledge and understanding that I had a head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000, that I had a subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain that lasted 8.5 years. And after how I wound up off of a military installation delivering 2 children on U.S. soil, I dealt with this. On U.S. soil. Where is the feminists in that regard? What feminists are there? Or is it only by choice because of my right to choose to be a Republican? Because there's no excuse in regards to any female that wants female rights. I don't care what your political affiliation is. But if you actually care about my political affiliation, and that has ever been a hesitation regarding assistance to my son, my daughter, and I, you just think about whether or not you're actually a feminist. Because if you only do so by a specific category, where would you ever think that you're an actual feminist? In truth. I was in the Army when it came to the Brackenridge situation regarding the rave. What does that tell you? That was before I could vote. I was still 17 years old when that happened. What's the problem? I was 18 years old when I wound up off the military installation. Why does that matter, what my political affiliation is? When I delivered my son and my daughter with that subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain, I was 19 and 20. And in that translation, I was 1.5 and 2.5 years awake from my coma with that subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain. What did my biological mother, biological father, and biological sister choose to do during that time frame? What did my ex-in-laws choose to do during that time frame? What did the different branches and divisions of the armed forces of the United States of America choose to do at that time frame? And what did the civilian population choose to do at that time frame? What has occurred since then? Obviously, it's no. So, just as in the year of 2008, before the Thanksgiving time frame, but for Thanksgiving dinner, regarding the year of 2008 presidential election, because of that abomination of a wedding family situation, regarding Exit 200 Starbucks, that overall situation. Just keep that in mind. They're out of Austin. Regards the Millers. What is that Democratic, what? For all those people in 2010 who claimed that the Democratic policies were so amazing, how so? What box do you have to check in those references in comparison to humanity? Just wondering. And so it was reported through one of the news situations on YouTube a few hours ago that 46, President of the United States of America, 46, Joe Biden, is looking at forgiving college debt. Those who I once knew in 2010 and 2011 in the city of Austin, Texas, in what was supposed to be the consensual adult lifestyle. Do you remember what I warned you about when it came to the ACA or Obamacare? Do you remember that? What did you think back in 2010 and 2011? And what proof do you have now? I warned about that college situation as well. So while it was brought up by a Minnesota individual, I can't remember her name, my apologies, here is the reality regarding that. The banks were brought forward in that reference. Well, what happened to the bank loans in reference to the college debts? The answer for this lecture is the bank loans were sent to collection agencies when certain banks had filed the claim with the United States of America. So the collection agencies are the ones who incurred the debt while the banks took in the finances. If the IRS were to look into that, I guarantee you, by technicalities, certain things would already be taken care of. But it's the interest rates in those references. Yes, I also know and understand and comprehend there were a lot of banks that had issues because of the East Coast. Because by the time of 2008 and the housing bubble, you had the car situations regarding the different lots. You had the housing situations regarding those buildings. Same thing when it came to houses in the different tri-state area. So in reference to the college debt situation, which is different than those vehicle as well as house and building aspects, those college debts, especially in that area, tri-state area is an expensive area to go to college in, so anybody knows. Well, with those debts that were moved to collections agencies, is there a legal definition that the legal portions would understand in those references? Now, since the year of 2008, when the banks were assisted, or however the wording is, and all of these college universities and tech schools, or whatever terminology you want to use, in the civilian sector specifically, not in the military sector. The military sector, that's covered. That's done. Active duty, National Guard, reservists, veterans, they don't have to worry about that. I warned you in Austin regarding those who know what I'm talking about. In Austin, 2010 and 2011, in the DFW area from 2008 to 2010, as well as 2011 to the end of 2011, 2012, and in 2012 in San Antonio regarding Texas. Whether it was in the vanilla sector and or the supposed to be consenting adult lifestyle. I warned. Started off with the medical care as one particular situation. Individuals wanted to argue with me. They said they wanted the medical aspects that I had when I was in basic training. You've got a lot to think about from back then. So those individuals from back in those years, that includes my biological sister. That includes who she married. That includes Mike and Anna as well. That includes several of my ex-in-laws. So in basic training, those who know, you have two lines of individuals who have your inoculations ready to go. It's not an option. Those who know how basic training is, you know, you got your sleeves rolled up and you take a step forward, they wipe you with alcohol, you get a shot. Take a step forward, they wipe you with alcohol, you get a shot. And it goes down. I can make a pop culture reference. Might not like this one. However, there's this guy called Lil Jon. Shot, 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 shot. Just pointing that out there. Especially when it comes to the supposed to be consenting adult lifestyle. Just gonna point that out there. Same thing when it comes to the scuba diving aspects. Those references. Because how many of those civilian recreational scuba divers went on and on and on about how they couldn't believe I voted for McCain and Palin. Because I saw, I knew, I understood, I paid attention. Yeah, I went to one of the tea parties out in Carrollton, looking as I do, not in this, but yes I did. Whether or not some people in Carrollton believed me. Now one of my neighbors in Carrollton, him and his partner on the house that was on the right on the way into the cul-de-sac, they couldn't believe, similarly to others, how I, of anybody, this is literally verbatim, Susan, I can't believe you. You? How could you actually be a part of the Tea Party? Look at you. How could you? How couldn't you vote for Obama? Easily. Easily. When I go to the voting booth, I'll be voting for McCain and Palin. Did you not know I'm a Republican? Not male. I can't believe you look as you do. How could you vote for anybody other than Obama looking the way you do? Isn't that an irony? As many times as I have been a beard. Nonetheless, those who wish regarding, well, I'm not going to have a child, or I don't want to do this, or I'm in this that doesn't exempt you from it. You wanted to vote for 44. You wanted universal, not anything else. You wanted universal health care. That's how it goes. There's no exemptions
unless you have insurance elsewhere. This is what I warned people. So in reference of what was claimed was only the housing bubble, but if you actually paid attention to the news, it had to do with vehicles as well as houses, as well as businesses. And by that point in time, the 9/11 Commission report had begun being circulated more in detail within the Congress and the Senate and the White House because of certain factors. So from 2008, when that occurred, well, what is going on with the college loans? Because, you know, what military guys dealt with in reference to housing and house loans while they were overseas handling the situation as best as they could. So as I explained to people, most specifically Austin, but yes, in DFW and San Antonio to the civilian sector, these guys already are dealing with stuff. This is the facts. So when it comes to the college loans, what occurred from the prior time of the year 2008 or whenever it was finalized as far as the paperwork, why did it go to collections agencies? Because if it was taken care of by the United States of America's government, what would the purpose be for it to ever go to a collections agency unless there wasn't anybody paying attention to the AI? Because that's what certain types of institutions know about. That would be an Internal Revenue Service auditing, if I'm accurate on that. Then, in that reference, in regards of going to college, individuals afterwards, why would it be where it is not something you could ever declare on bankruptcy if you choose to go that route? The answer is you still got the education. That is why. Doesn't matter whether or not you graduated, you still were educated. This is why it doesn't ever get wiped clean from your credit of what you owe. You were capable to get the education at the expense of. This is why you cannot declare it. So I disagree respectfully in the reference of. However, if you're going to have people that are going to push this through in whatever state you are in within the United States of America, and you have college debt, unlike myself, unlike other people, let me clarify. If you have not paid attention regarding the ACA, also known as Obamacare, Affordable Care Act, Universal Health Care, whatever name you want to call it, back in the year of 2020, I had done a video where I began, I think it's called the Stratton Law, reading that, giving that as an example in my official YouTube channel. You might want to go look that up. Because in those references, if you've been getting health care and you have not paid back those debts, and those individuals that have fought against what I made every attempt to clarify, however those discussions, debates, arguments, however you want to put it went, reality is reality. And so, since there has been the situations of how in the 1980s to the 1990s have repeated
regarding what is supposed to be considered the adult consenting lifestyle, the fact of the matter of how that affects and impacts the reproduction system of each and every human being is obvious and has been proven medically. So, and then when you go and have females who are proud to have how many abortions instead of just using a condom? Think about that. What you are doing to your internal self at that point. You wonder why certain things? Well, why? The reproduction of? So in the 1990s, most specifically, there were so many people in New Jersey and New York and Pennsylvania that were paying for IVF treatment. There were others who, instead of adopting children in the United States of America, who didn't want to deal with the paperwork, which should have. They went overseas instead. Can't do that anymore. It's time to actually accept responsibility, in my opinion. So all of those individuals, in regards of whatever college debt of whatever, if in regards of those house and auto and etc. loans have been found to go over to collections agencies, what is the difference? Why would you allow that? These people still got the education last I checked. So, in those references, additionally, then you have that ACA. Well, I guess if 46, who was Vice President of the United States of America, 46, to who so many people were proud to vote for, 44, as far as President of the United States of America, Barack Obama. Everybody was so proud, so excited for your choices, as far as your reasons, as far as what you said. Well, those immunizations. Because while having listened to an interview, and yes, I acknowledge more recently regarding E=mc², how is it you are going to have a bunch of young people taking care of a bunch of elderly if you do not take care of the reproductive system as well as immunizations? How are you going to prevent that so that way you still have a natural progression of life forward towards betterment? The answer is you actually take care of the health in the correct capacities. So we're not the exact same regarding that female from St. John Vianney High School at all whatsoever. Still, healthcare in that regards is life. If you want to continue forward in life, there are certain things that you have to make sure to take care of as best as possible. So, while a bit long of a lecture, of course, the reality, individuals who have heard situations regarding immunizations in the military, well, what gender did that occur to? And then when you take in consideration the transgender movement, what reproduction is capable to occur? So if you simply just accept the LGBTQP, instead of trying to force certain other things, because of those types who like the clout in comparison to responsibility. This is what I dealt with in 2010, especially. But before then, of course, how do you actually progress forward if you actually appreciate life? You actually have to take care of responsibility, is the answer. And so, sure, there are different ways, I'm sure, to take care of things. But if they are looking at seriously wiping college debt, you should really take that in consideration, those of you who have college debt. Because you who have college debt, that is your responsibility. That is what you are going to deal with personally, in comparison to those who do not have college debt. And so those who do not have college debt, they don't have college debt. So if that translates to basic training, and those first 72 hours of basic training that anybody who's been to basic training knows, it is what it is, especially in reference to those who have college debt. So I have on my website, www.susanmealing.com, and my journal blog, The Ornery PSA, as well as in reference to specifically finding a silver lining in my book section. I put that out there years ago. Back in 2015, I put that Dropbox link, along with finding the silver lining. Making attempts as best as I could with those two specific books, because of how important it truly seemed. Similar to San Antonio, Texas, in 2012 and 2013, more so towards the end of 2012 and into 2013, before my son and I wound up in Washington State, with the time in between regarding Arizona. And from 2013 through, 2021, not really much difference regarding those particular factors. So I made attempts to explain, and people's opinions are people's opinions. So there was Erica, or Discordia, and Alicia. They had a massive problem because I wasn't voting for 44's re-election. I voted for Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan. They had a huge problem with that. Massively huge problem. I actually had Alicia in the car when I went to go vote. She had a fit that I had the nerve to vote for Romney and Ryan. Absolute nerve to do that and let her know. What happened in San Antonio after that? In 2012? Regarding what's supposed to be considered the adult consenting lifestyle? I'm sure there are some who could clarify that. So, something to take in consideration. All that stuff I brought forward all those years ago. And, I made the attempts regarding humanity. I made those attempts. So with the knowledge of the formation of the U.S. Space Force in 2020 by 45's administration, Donald J. Trump, and Vice President of the United States of America, 47, Mike Pence, administration, and however many administrations backwards, Congress and Senate, as well as NASA and SpaceX and Blue Origin. Well, where was I accurate there? So go to my website, www.susanmealing.com. Make sure to like my official YouTube videos, and if you are going to comment, please do so with etiquette and respect. And subscribe to my official YouTube channel. You can share my official YouTube links, and go to my website, www.susanmealing.com. Maybe there's some aspects to think about and ponder. You have a good day.